Hello everyone. Today we will go to study section 3 from the first chapter of the second part of the divine principle, which is called, the section 3 is called the Providence of Restoration in Abraham's family. God, God called Abraham to restore the foundation for the Messiah, which Noah's family had left incomplete. We know that in Noah's family the foundation of faith was built, but the foundation of substance wasn't built. So that's why God is continuously trying to fulfill the foundation for the Messiah in order to send the Messiah upon that foundation. So God is looking for a new central figure who can fulfill the foundation for the Messiah. So we see after Noah, in Genesis, the next person is Abraham. Abraham had to restore through indemnity the foundation of faith. His sons had to restore through indemnity the foundation of substance. Foundation of faith and foundation of substance. And when these two foundations are established, the foundation for the Messiah will be established. And we still live in the age of offerings. What is the difference of what's mean the age of offerings? Is the age when people cannot receive the word from God. So as a substitute for the word, they are making offerings, usually offerings of animals. Adam was able to receive the word of God. He failed to keep the word of God, didn't believe in that word. He failed to the position. He failed into a realm devoid of the principle. And in this realm, people are incapable of receiving God's word. So in order to make offering to God, without God's word, they offer offerings as a substitute for the God's word, because offerings are part of the natural world, and they are they didn't fall. I hear often that people say that after the fall, everything fall, like human beings and creation also fall. That's why animals start to eat other animals. But they say that before the fall, animals were not eating other animals. The animals were all vegetarian, but it's not. That's not the case. The 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 creation, all things, animals, birds, didn't fall. Only human beings fall. The creation, all things are reaching perfection. Human beings cannot reach perfection, and that's why the all things is is more closer to God than human beings. That's why human beings are offering all things, offerings, the things of creation, animals or ark or the fruits of the field, in order to substitute for the God word, to make an offering to build the foundation of faith. This is the age we are still in here, from Adam and continuously Abel, Noah, Abraham. We are still in this age to build the foundation for the Messiah. God chose Abraham to inherit the mission which he had tried to fulfill with Noah. He had tried to fulfill it with Adam, through Abel, Noah, and after, because he wasn't able to fulfill it, he chose the next person, which is Abraham. However, Abraham could not inherit this mission unless he first restored through indemnity all the conditions which had been given to Noah to fulfill, but which were lost to Satan due to Ham's sin. So this is one thing I want to explain. When the previous central figure, we call it central figure, central person, who was entrusted with the mission to build the foundation for the Messiah, fails to fulfill to fulfill his responsibility to establish the foundation for the for the Messiah, God is choosing next person. However, next person need to he need to fulfill the foundation for the Messiah. Also, plus he need to indemnify the failures of the previous central figures. So he had a more harder task, more heavier task than the previous central figures had. For example, the 10 generations from Adam to Noah had to be restored through indemnity by another 10 generations before God chose Abraham to inherit Noah's mission. That's why God cannot call Abraham right after Noah. He need to wait the 10 generations because need to be restored the previous 10 generations. So that's because of the failure that was of not building the foundation of faith, the foundation for the Messiah in Noah's family. So this was God's victory. 10 generations, God was able to restore, to find the father of faith. So to restore these 10 generations, which God lost because of the failure in Noah's family, God has to restore those 10 generations by waiting for another 10 generations. In order from that time already, after finish these 10 generations, he already can choose a central figure. It's called, in divine principle, it's called restoration through indemnity. To assume the role of the father of faith in place of Noah, Abraham had to make a symbolic offering. It's called the foundation of faith. With a loyal heart, just as Noah did when he built the ark. Let's see what kind of symbolic offering God is asking Abraham to do. In the case of Noah, God asked to build the ark. In the case of Abraham, let's see. After receiving God's blessing in Genesis chapter 12, verses 1 to 3, Abraham left his father's house in Haran in obedience to God's command with his wife Sarah, his nephew Lot, and all his belongings and servants. First, God is asking him to leave his house, his father's house. In Genesis chapter 12, verses 1 to 3, is saying, "Now the Lord said to Abram, Go from your country and your kindred and your father's house to the land I will show you, and I will make of you a great nation. And I will bless you and make your name great, and by you all the families of the earth shall bless themselves." This is God's call to Abraham and God's blessing to Abraham. This is Abraham's journey with modern national borders. So we see that Abraham lived in Haran, and God asked him to leave his father's house. Haran, maybe this is current borders is maybe Syria, or maybe close to Turkey. I think it's Syria here. Abraham's course was the model course which Jacob and Moses would walk in their days. So through the life course of Abraham, God is setting a pattern, the model, which will be followed later by Jacob and Moses. So the pattern is to leave the fallen world and go to the promised land. Abraham lived in Haran, which, let's say, is considered as a fallen world in this context. And God asked him to leave that world and go to the promised land. So Abraham was asked to leave the Ur and go to Canaan. Jacob was asked to leave in Haran, he was stay there 21 years, and to move to Canaan. Moses was asked to move from Egypt to Canaan. Jesus is and taking with them all their people. Jesus is taking all his people from the satanic world and bringing them to the kingdom of God. This is the model, the pattern that Abraham first establishing. Before Abraham could make the symbolic offering, he had to demonstrate righteousness. Just as Noah was a righteous man, blameless in his generation, Noah walked with God in Genesis chapter 6:9. In this way, Noah was deemed worthy to build the ark. Yeah, before making symbolic offering, he need to earn that position, to be chosen to be as a person who qualified to make a symbolic offering. So in the case of Abraham, let us investigate how Abraham strengthened his faith in preparation for making the symbolic offering. He need to earn the qualification to make the symbolic offering, and God is putting in a situation for Abraham to prove that. So the Bible gives an account of a trip to Egypt by Abraham's family. So from here he going to Egypt. Here was Haran, here is Ur, and from here he go back to Egypt. I think Abraham's travel was like that. When they entered Egypt, Abraham instructed his wife Sarah to pose as his sister because he was afraid the Pharaoh might desire her. Abraham feared that the Pharaoh would have him killed if Pharaoh had found out that Abraham was Sarah's husband. Indeed, at the Pharaoh's command, Abraham handed Sarah over to him while she posed as his sister. Thereupon God chastised the Pharaoh. Abraham took back his wife along with his nephew Lot and abundant wealth from the Pharaoh. They left Egypt. So that was the way how God was challenging, was put Abraham to earn his qualification to make the symbolic offering. He needed to go to Egypt, let Pharaoh take his wife, and after receive his wife back. So this was God called him to this trip, and he went. He followed God's call. That was not an easy trip. He I remember when Pharaoh took his wife, he had very serious prayer that night. So he was put in a challenging situation to trust God that the situation in Egypt will go well. Without knowing it, Abraham walked this providential course to I'm sorry, to symbolically indemnify the position of Adam and Eve. Adam and Eve were brother and sister. Abraham had to restore this. So the reason the God is sending Abraham to this trip and putting him in this situation is to restore the position of Adam's family. So Adam and Eve were brother and sister. So that's why Abraham was set for Sarah to pose as his sister. So that was they were restoring the Adam and Eve's position before the fall. Abraham was deprived of Sarah by the Pharaoh, just as the archangel took Eve from Adam. Abraham had to take Sarah back from the Pharaoh as his wife, together with Lot, representing humanity, and wealth, symbolizing the natural world. So that is the situation. The archangel took Eve, and after to restore this, the Pharaoh, who is in position of archangel or position of Satan, you can say, taking his wife Sarah from taking his sister Sarah from Abraham. But the Lord afflicted Pharaoh and his house with great plague because of Sarah's, Abraham's wife. So Pharaoh called Abram and said, "What is this you have done to me? Why did you not tell me that she was your wife?" Genesis chapter 12 verses 17 to 20. So what I can comment here is in our life we have to trust in God when there is a serious situation or is some situation appear in our life. Whatever situation appear, we have to trust in God, because look, here appears that, if looking from human eyes, appears that Pharaoh is taking his wife and but because God was was restoring the situation, God was giving Pharaoh troubles. So behind the scenes, God is working, and we shouldn't see the situations in our life without God. God is also working behind the scenes. So sometimes because we don't see that, we become hopeless, and we don't see any positivity in any victory. However, God was working with Abraham, and He was protecting him. Now then, he is your wife, take her and be gone. And Pharaoh gave men orders concerning him, and they set him on the way with his wife and all that he had. Once he had fulfilled the symbolic indemnity condition to restore the position of Adam's family, Abraham was deemed ready or righteous to make the symbolic offering. Now, was the trial that Abraham went through that qualified him to be the central, to be in a position to make, to be in a position to build the foundation of faith and make the offering. Righteous, right standing. In his symbolic offering for the foundation of faith, Abraham was to restore all that God could not restore through the symbolic offerings made by the families of Adam and Noah. So that's one what I said before, that the Abraham is in a situation not just to make the offering his own offering. He need to indemnify the previous failures of the people who were making offerings. So in the case of Abel, the foundation of faith wasn't built. In the case of Noah, wasn't built. So that these offerings were claimed by Satan. So that's why Abraham has to indemnify, has to make a condition to indemnify these offerings also. And besides that, to make his own offering. So he has a heavier task, in a sense. The more go into history, the more heavier task is coming for the next central figures, because they have, besides making their own symbolic offering, have to indemnify the previous. So one lesson from here is that our failures will have to be indemnified by somebody in the future after we pass away. Someone will have to indemnify the mistakes, the things that we couldn't do in our life. So in this sense, we should be serious to not fail. We should be serious in making our offerings to God. We should not leave any debt to future generations. Yeah, the previous symbolic offerings were made properly, but then forfeited to Satan due to subsequent failures in making the substantial offerings. Abraham's symbolic offering had three types of objects: to restore in his generation horizontally all the accumulated indemnity conditions vertically to the three generations of Adam, Noah, and Abraham. Abraham offered three types of objects for his symbolic offering. First, a dove and a pigeon. Second, a ram and a goat. And third, a heifer. Let us study how Abraham made the symbolic offering. In Genesis chapter 15, verses 10 to 13. And Abraham brought him all these, and cut them in two, and laid each half over against the other. But he did not cut the birds in two. And when the birds of prey came down upon the carcasses, Abraham drove them away. As the sun was going down, a deep sleep fell on Abram, and lo, a dread and great darkness fell upon him. Then the Lord said to Abram, Know of a surety that your descendants will be sojourners in a land that is not theirs, and will be slaves there, and they will be oppressed for 400 years. So we see here that Abraham made an offering. The offering is supposed to be divided. He divided the animals, he didn't divide the birds. And because of that, the birds of prey descended on the offering and profaned it. These birds of prey signify Satan. So the mistake that Abraham did was not cutting the birds. And they say that Abraham didn't participate himself directly in making the offering. He didn't cut the birds. He gave the order to his servants to make the offering. But even though, and apparently like he's not responsible because his servants didn't cut the birds, but even though he didn't participate, he gave instructions for his servants to make the offering. He's supposed to say for them to cut the birds. He's supposed to give these instructions. Because of Abraham's let's say negligence, he didn't pay attention to details. The offering was claimed by Satan instead. So the offering wasn't successful. God couldn't accept this offering. when Abraham was making his symbolic offering, Satan was on the lookout for an opportunity to seize the sacrifice. So the lesson from this is that we are always watched by the Satan. So we cannot kind of hide whatever we making problems, mistakes that we're making, because let's say that God is watching and God is forgiving, God is understanding, and maybe God will not do anything. But besides God, there is another guy who is watching. This is Satan. And that's why even God is forgiving us, doesn't punish us. The Satan is accusing God. You see, you said that this is your guy, this is your child. You see, he is behaving like me. He is he make this sin. That's why he is more like me. So that's why God, when we make this kind of mistakes, sins, God is receiving accusations from Satan. So we are representing God in a bad way. So we are proving ourselves not being God's children when we're making this kind of mistakes. This is how why God has a hard time to move Providence forward, because Satan always is watching, and as soon as he see possibility to attack, to accuse, he is doing that. Satan profaned it as soon as he saw the birds were not divided. The Bible describes this by the image of birds of prey descending upon the sacrifice. All the conditions God intended to restore through it were lost. As a consequence, Abraham's descendants had to suffer oppression and slavery for 400 years in the land of Egypt. So in the Bible they say that because of the mistake, your descendants will suffer in the land that is not theirs. So this was the reason why Israelites were slaves in Egypt for 400 years, because of Abraham's negligence in cutting the doves, the birds. Let us first investigate the reason for this and why Abraham was instructed to cut the sacrifices in half. God aims to restore the sovereignty of goodness by first dividing good from evil, and then destroying evil and uplifting the good. You see, this is how it's. Let's see again. For this is the bird, this is the dove, let's say, is in the midway position. The offering is in the midway position, symbolically. So offering should be divided. So it's a representative of human beings. We are in the midway position, and we depending on, God has claim on us because he created us, and Satan has claim on us because we belong to his lineage because of the fall. We have original sin. So in order for God to move his providence forward, he has to separate us to separate us into good and evil, into into which God separated Adam through his sons, Cain and Abel. So this is when God is separating good and evil, and after he is claiming back the separated part, the evil. So God is separating Abel and Cain, and Abel represents God, Cain represents Satan, but through their victory, Cain and Abel, God claiming Cain and Abel and Cain as well. So as it shows in this slide, let's see again. You see, God is separating the birds. One bird is belong to Satan. God destroys Satan's evil object partner, and God uplifts God's good object partner. So through like the part which belongs to God, keeping relationship with God, it's possible to restore the side which was separated and bring it back to God. This is how God works his providence. That's why God is separating, dividing. We see a lot of division in the Bible. And we see here also Adam. This is Adam. He's in the midway position. He needs to separate Adam. So here the Cain and Abel is separated. One is in the position to relate with Satan, one is in the position to relate with God. But God wants to save both of them. So this is how he's doing. He's separating them, and after uniting them, bringing back to God. Abraham's offering was also to be symbolic restitution for the failed substantial offering, foundation of substance, in Adam's family. So in Adam's family, we know that foundation of faith was established, but foundation of substance was not established, and that's why the offering of the birds, the separation, cutting the birds in half, was a restitution for Adam's family. It's indemnifying the Adam's mistake. Abraham was required to offer in an acceptable manner all that Noah's family was trying to accomplish through the dispensation of the ark. In Noah's day, God struck down evil through the flood judgment, and we note out Noah's family as the good. The division in Noah's family was the flood itself divided the world into the Noah's family, which was relating with God, and the rest of humanity separated by the flood, which was destroyed. It belonged to Satan's side. So the separation of the goat, division of the goat, symbolized restitution for Noah's family. Both the cosmos and Adam were to pass through the 3 stages of the growing period. Abraham was to restore all the defiled conditions containing the number 3. These 3 stages. First is formation stage, second is growth stage, and third is the completion stage. 3 stages. So the birds are in the formation stage. The ram and goat are the growth stage. The dove represented the formation stage, the ram represented the growth stage, the heifer represented the completion stage. So Abraham's symbolic offering was restoring all the offerings from the past, formation, growth, and completion stages. Thus Abraham was now in the position to restore all at once the long providence which God had conducted through the three providential generations of Adam, formation, Noah, growth, and Abraham, completion. God's work aims to make to make the symbolic offering symbolic condition to separate a realm of good sovereignty out of the universe ruled by Satan. Finally, the sacrifices were to be divided as a condition to drain out the blood of death, which had entered fallen humanity bound by blood ties to Satan. So that's the reason that God asked to divide the offering. One of the reasons was to drain the blood of death. So the symbolic representative of that human beings belong to Satan's blood lineage. So by dividing the offering, this blood lineage, blood ties to Satan are drained. So this is a symbolic separation from evil, from Satan. Symbolically recover the providential tasks in Adam's family, division of the offering. Symbolically recover the providential tasks in Noah's family. Abraham's offering was bringing these victories. Third, separate out a realm of good sovereignty as a good object partner, not to separate good and evil. And fourth, sanctification by draining satanic blood. That was the purpose of the Abraham's offering, and why God asked Abraham to make offering in this way. Why was it a sin not to divide the birds? You see, the birds supposed to be divided. God asked Abraham to divide the whole offering, all animals, but Abraham didn't divide the birds. Why was it a sin? First, not dividing the offering has the significance of not dividing Abel from Cain, which deprived God of an object partner which he could take. Okay, first. Moreover, the mistakes which Cain and Abel had made were not restored. The, the providential tasks in Adam's family were not recovered. That's why it wasn't successful. The dove, symbolizing the formation stage, remained in Satan's possession. So not dividing the offering, it is an offering which is God doesn't have claim upon. So that's why Satan is claiming it. Consequently, Satan also claimed the growth stage, ram, and completion stage, heifer, based upon the formation stage. So as I said before, in another lecture about Adam's family, when God has to divide Adam because Adam was in a midway position, and midway position is a position which is claimed by is more close to Satan. because God has nothing to do with evil, and Adam was in a position to be claimed by God and by Satan in a midway position. So that's why God separated Adam and Cain and Abel, to be able to continue to work the providence through Abel. So not dividing the offering, uh, it God is unable to continue the providence because he doesn't have a good object partner with whom he can relate and continue the providence. And because the doves were the formation stage, by Satan taking the formation stage, the growth stage and completion stage, also he is taking all three stages at the same time. So this is not dividing the birds was a big mistake. This had the effect of handing over the entire symbolic offering to Satan. Not dividing the birds thus constituted a sin. So the tasks of Noah's family were not restored. Also, when Abraham's mistake in the symbolic offering allowed Satan to claim the offering as his, the 400-year period from Noah to Abraham was also lost to Satan. These 10 generations, 400 years, was also lost to Satan because Abraham didn't divide the birds. To recreate the situation before Abraham's failure, God set up another 400-year period for the separation of Satan. This period of slavery was the time when the Israelites were being punished for Abraham's mistake. 400 years of Egyptian bondage was because of Abraham's mistake. He is responsible for that. During this period, the Israelites were also laying the foundation to cut off ties to Satan and commence God's new providence. So because Abraham didn't cut the birds, didn't cut the ties with Satan, the Israelites, of being 400 years in slavery, were responsible to cut their ties with Satan to indemnify the mistakes of Abraham. God's providence to lay the foundation for the Messiah began in Adam's family and continued in Noah's family. It was to conclude in Abraham's family. Began in Adam's family, this is Abel, continued in Noah, and was supposed to be concluded in Abraham, because this is the third attempt. Contrary to this plan, Abraham failed. So Abraham failed to fulfill the foundation of faith. So the previous guys fulfilled the foundation of faith, at least. They failed in fulfilling the foundation of substance. Abraham failed in fulfilling the foundation of faith. When someone whom God has foreordained fails to complete his responsibility, God does not use him a second time. This is how God works. God, if you fail, God is choosing another person. But let's see what's happened here. Yet, after Abraham failed in the symbolic offering of the foundation of faith, God began a new dispensation through the 3 generations of Abraham: Isaac, his son, and Jacob, his grandson. So God is giving Abraham another chance. Even though God's supposed to choose another person, God tries to find a way to work with Abraham again. and wants to restore to indemnify his mistake through 3 generations of Abraham's family. Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. That's why in the Bible say, I am the God of Abraham, the God of Isaac, and the God of Jacob. So uh, the mistake that Abraham made was indemnified by 3 generations of Abraham family. Behold, my covenant is with you, and you shall be the father of a multitude of nations. No longer shall your name be Abram, but your name shall be Abraham. Genesis chapter 17, verses 4 to 5. As for Sarai, that time her name was Sarai, your wife, Sarah shall be her name. Sarah, your wife, shall bear you a son, and you shall call his name Isaac. I will establish my covenant with him as an everlasting covenant for his descendants after him. Genesis chapter 17, verses 4 to 5. So, because this is the third attempt of God to build the foundation for the Messiah, God has to find a way to work with Abraham again, and the way God is restoring vertically restoring the horizontally indemnity condition restored in a vertical way. Means in a vertical way means through the generations, not in Abraham's time, but through 3 generations of his son and grandson. So this is called vertically restoring the horizontal indemnity condition restored vertically. This is my covenant which you shall keep between me and you and your descendants after you. Every male among you shall be circumcised. Genesis chapter 17, verse 10. So another indemnity condition that he receives is to circumcise every male. Also, probably this is because he didn't cut the birds in two. They had this covenant to make with God. So Abraham is the reason why the tradition of circumcision started, because it's a tradition to indemnify his failure of not cutting the birds. God established the right of circumcision as a condition of indemnity. Cutting the foreskin of the male sexual organ and letting blood flow from it signifies removing the blood of death. Oh, I'm not sure. That probably because of the Abraham's mistake, this circumcision tradition was established. Actually, I'm not sure, but maybe if Abraham wouldn't make the mistake, this tradition of circumcision wouldn't exist. Why did God work with Abraham again? The number 3 represents completion. God's principle requires that when the providence to lay the foundation for the Messiah takes place for the 3rd time, it must be brought to completion. Okay, it must. That's why God has to work with Abraham, even though he made a mistake. Moreover, since Satan defiled Abraham's family over the course of 2 generations, Adam and Cain, Satan defiled Adam's family. He took these 2 generations. God could work to take back 2 generations in the position of Adam's family, Abraham and Isaac. So you see, because Satan took this, God is entitled to take 2 generations. So when I see this, this is like a fighting, like a war between Satan and God. Satan is claiming something. God is entitled to claim something. God is making mistake in something. Satan is claiming something. This type of warfare exists. Divine Principle explains the history is this type of conflict between God and Satan. Or in a sense, if this is kind of like a karma. If a person in Satan's who acting on behalf of Satan, making some kind of some evil act, this will not be. He will not get away with that. God will have to a condition to a way to win, to how to say, to the karma will come for that evil act. So that's it's not it's not just that people on God's side who making bad mistakes. Satan is coming after them. People on Satan's side who making bad mistake, God is coming after them too. So this is kind of like that. Before he could offer a new symbolic offering for the foundation of faith, Abraham once again had to demonstrate righteousness by repeating the symbolic indemnity condition for the restoration of Adam's family. So God is wanted to use Abraham again. However, Abraham again need to demonstrate worthiness. He need to earn the qualification to be in a position to make the offering. So that's why he's sending him again somewhere. Once again, Abraham put Sarah in the position of his sister and let her be taken by a king, Abimelech of Gerar. Genesis chapter 20, verses 1 to 18. So we see again this is repeating the situation that when, like in Egypt, Pharaoh took Sarah and give her back, and now another guy, Abimelech of Gerar, he's the king, king of Gerar, taking his wife Sarah. After she became the king's wife, Abraham took her back. He also took back with him slaves, symbolizing humanity, and riches, symbolizing the natural world. God came to Abimelech in a dream by night and said to him, "Behold, you are a dead man, because of the woman whom you have taken, for she is a man's wife." Genesis chapter 20, verse 3. Same like with Pharaoh. God coming to them in a dream and giving them a hard time. Then God said to him in the dream, "Now then restore the man's wife, for he is a prophet, and he will pray for you, and you shall live. But if you do not restore her, know that you shall surely die, you and all that are yours." Genesis chapter 20, verses 6 to 7. This kind of dream he had. This is how God worked. Although there remain some grounds in the principle for the foundation for the Messiah to be established, centered on Abraham, Abraham was not qualified to repeat this to repeat the symbolic offering himself, since he had failed to fulfill his responsibility. Somehow God had to find a way to regard Abraham as though he had not failed in the symbolic offering or caused the prolongation of the providence. To achieve this, God commanded Abraham to offer Isaac as a burnt offering. Genesis chapter 22, verse 2. To attain inseparable oneness in their fidelity to God's will. One thing that I think here this principle is saying here is that how can God work with Abraham again? Principally, he cannot because he failed. This is saying here that he has to put Abraham in a position as though he didn't fail. So that's how God can work with Abraham again. For this, in order to achieve this, God is asking him to offer his son Isaac. You see, as he didn't fail. You see here, you see his failure. And you see, God has to manipulate the situation in a way that Abraham would be seen as not as he wouldn't have been wouldn't have failed. So by offering his son Isaac as a sacrifice, Abraham was given the opportunity to fulfill a condition of indemnity, albeit at a greater price, to restore all he had lost when he failed in the earlier symbolic offering. So God is doing this because Satan is looking to Satan would accuse God if that's why God has to ask Abraham to offer Isaac. So Satan wouldn't be able to accuse. So the God could work with Abraham through his sons Isaac and Jacob later. So we see in Noah's case there was a test when Ham supposed to respect and honor his father. This would demonstrate his unity with his father. He failed this test. He didn't respect his father. He didn't honor his father, and that was the failure of Noah's family. So this is in Abraham's family. His son Isaac is also Abraham and his son, both of them going through this test. Abraham needs to offer Isaac, and Isaac has to trust Abraham. It is not clear how old Isaac was when Abraham offered the boy. He was old enough to carry the wood for the sacrifice. When he saw there was no lamb to be offered, Isaac was apparently old enough to discern his father's intentions. Genesis chapter 22, verses 6 to 7. So because Isaac was able to carry the wood, he wasn't really small. He was big boy. And he asked Abraham, where's the offering? So he somehow understood that he is the offering. Before being offering, he already knew that he will be that offering. He could sense that. We can infer that he helped his father even though he knew that his father was preparing to offer him as the sacrifice. This was the attitude of Isaac is very different than attitude of Ham toward Noah. So Ham disrespected his father, dishonored his father, But Isaac, he so much believed his father, so much trusted his father. This is a complete indemnification or restoration of the situation that happened in Noah's family. If Isaac had resisted his father's attempt to offer him, God definitely would not have accepted the offering. Together their faith made the offering successful, and there was no way for Satan to retain his hold on them. Satan couldn't hold Abraham and his son Isaac on his side, because Abraham and Isaac together united. Genesis chapter 22 verses 9 to 12. When they came to the place of which God had told him, Abraham built an altar there and laid the wood in order, and bound Isaac his son, and laid him on the altar upon the wood. Then Abraham put forth his hand and took the knife to slay his son. But the angel of the Lord called to him from heaven and said, Abraham, Abraham. And he said, Here am I. He said, Do not lay your hand on the lad or do anything to him. For now I know that you fear God, seeing you have not withheld your son, your only son, from me. So because Abraham failed in first offering, he coming back from, he was claimed by Satan, is indemnifying that to be claimed by, come back to God by offering his son Isaac. Abraham's zeal to do God's will lifted him up to the position of already having sacrificed Isaac. Therefore he completely separated Satan from Isaac, who now stood on God's side. This act of faith was tantamount to Abraham killing himself. Abraham was also resurrected to life, now loosed from all the ties with which Satan had bound him when his symbolic offering was defiled. So, before going to offer Isaac on the Mount of Moriah, Abraham was walking with Isaac for 3 days, and that was the most hardest 3 days in Abraham's life. He had to. He had in his mind he was wrestling with the idea that he had to offer his son. He was in a torment in these 3 days. So this is a wrestle with God. I think this is Abraham is the first Israel, maybe. Jacob was his name was changed from Jacob to Israel, but probably Abraham was the first one who was already making the pattern for Jacob to to wrestle with God and prevail. As a result, 2 things were accomplished. First, Abraham restored through indemnity the position he had occupied before he had made the mistake, and transferred his providential mission to Isaac from his restored position. So how God as we see, God has to look at Abraham as he had made the mistake. As he didn't fail in the first offering. So by offering Isaac successfully, the mission is transferred to Isaac from Abraham. So God is conducting His providence as though Abraham didn't make the mistake. The mission just starting with Isaac. Isaac kind of Isaac is coming into Abraham's position. And second, by faithfully obeying God's will, Isaac inherited the divine mission from Abraham and demonstrated the faith which qualified him to make the symbolic offering. So the mission came from Abraham to Isaac, and Isaac is in a position to make the symbolic offering, to build the foundation of faith in a sense. After the divine mission had passed from Abraham to Isaac, Abraham offered the ram provided by God as the substitute for Isaac. So I think this was Isaac's foundation of faith. He offered this ram together with Abraham. So this is how Isaac made the foundation of faith. Was success. He at the same time, by trusting his father, he was qualified to inherit his father's mission and to become qualified to make the symbolic offering to build the foundation of faith. And he made this offering together with his father. This is a real victory. Abraham lifted up his eyes and looked, and behold, behind him was a ram, caught in a thicket by his horns. And Abraham went and looked and took the ram and offered it up as a burnt offering instead of his son. Genesis chapter 22, verse 13. Since Isaac carried the wood for the sacrifice, we can infer that he participated in the offering of the ram. In this way, Isaac made the symbolic offering and restored through indemnity the foundation of faith. Okay, Isaac restored the foundation of faith. This is the end of the section 3, Abraham's faith. In Abraham's family, there is another section. It's called Restoration of Abraham's family. It's building the foundation of substance. It happened between Isaac's sons, Jacob and Esau. So this will be another lecture. Recommend everybody to read the Divine Principle. It is a book which will give you a lot of inspiration.